Hi, I'm Erin Perry, and I'm advocating for breastfeeding in public. Breastfeeding in public has turned into a very controversial issue over the years. There have been countless polls and studies done trying to answer the question of why is breastfeeding so controversial. There's not been a concrete answer that should deter women from breastfeeding in public. The only answer has been that it makes people uncomfortable. Breast milk is known for many benefits for both mother and infant, and the public needs to support, protect, and promote breastfeeding. Not just in general, but breastfeeding in public. There should be no stance against women breastfeeding in public. It's evident that breastfeeding has become more popular over the years. About 77% of women start breastfeeding in the hospitals once the baby is born. At 6 months of age, that number drops to 49% of women nursing their children. Mothers who are doing what's best for their children need to feel comfortable to feed their children in public. A survey done for breastfeeding mothers determined the number one fear of breastfeeding mothers was to have to nurse in public. It wasn't the pain or the sleepless nights, but just the simple task of nursing their children outside of the home. Mothers who bottle feed don't have that anxiety. They have nothing said to them when they're bottle feeding their babies in public. So why should breastfeeding mothers? The answer to the question is simple. People merely are not comfortable with public displays of breastfeeding. They believe it's inappropriate. Over 50% of participants in a study said they were not comfortable with breastfeeding in public. More of the people in the study were older that didn't agree with it. In the range from 18 to 45, they were more supportive. Looking into it a little further, they decided that people are confused and conflicted about whether it should be a private or public act. But to elaborate a little bit, public acts of breastfeeding can be seen as dangerous, create awkward social situations, and can also be seen as an intimate act that should only be done in private. Breastfeeding in public may be seen as dangerous because a woman has her breast out. Some believe it's asking for harassment or assault for fear of where the harassment or assault may lead. Some would rather just not support breastfeeding in public. Breastfeeding is not a sexual act, but some associate the breast with sexuality that can create a target for danger or awkward social interactions. For example, a child of a bystander may ask a question about, what's that woman doing? Why does she have her breast exposed? Or what is that suckling noise the child is making? The bystander may not be prepared to answer the questions about breastfeeding. It could make people uncomfortable. Since some also believe the act of breastfeeding is intimate, both physically and emotionally, it should just be done in private because it makes people feel uncomfortable to witness such an intimate moment. Breastfeeding mothers have been mistreated by people in public for simply nursing their children because those around them are uncomfortable. For example, an extreme and polarizing issue revealed that some mothers breastfeeding in public were actually asked to leave a public area. Advertisement for breastfeeding have portrayed breastfeeding in public as dirty and polarizing, and some advertisements have mothers sitting in a public restroom feeding their infants, saying something along the lines of private dining. Due to negative advertisements, many believe there need to be a more positive advertisement and awareness about breastfeeding to encourage people to be more accepting of the act. Research shows that breastfeeding is the best source of nutrition for infants, and if mothers are uncomfortable breastfeeding in public due to what others think, it may deter them from breastfeeding in general. Those who disagree with breastfeeding in public are not being realistic. As mentioned earlier, 77% of women are breastfeeding their babies when they leave the hospital. With the benefits of breastfeeding being highly publicized, the number should only increase as time goes on. With more and more mothers breastfeeding, they are going to be more open acts of breastfeeding. There are 49 plus states that have laws specifically set up to allow women to breastfeed in a public or private location. Federal governments also have laws set up to protect nursing mothers. These laws are based on recognition of organizations such as the American Academy of Pediatrics, American Congress of Obstetricians, UNICEF, and the World Health Organization. Breastfeeding in public should be accepted, and women should not feel uncomfortable or like they're being inappropriate for doing what's best for their mother and the baby. Steps need to be taken to inform the public that breastfeeding is beneficial for both the mother and the infant, and that the public needs to protect, promote, and support our nursing mothers. The public needs to know that breastfeeding is a natural act that can be performed in private and in public. It's protected by law, but many may not be aware of laws in place to ensure breastfeeding mothers the right to nurse in public. There needs to be more advertisements to promote breastfeeding to get more people involved with helping nursing mothers feel comfortable with breastfeeding. The more people who are aware that breastfeeding in public is lawfully acceptable, the more supportive they may become. It is supported by many organizations and is recognized as the best choice for mother and child. It should not be looked down upon. People should not be offended or feel like it's inappropriate to witness a mother feeding her child. A study published in 2006 demonstrated how beneficial breast milk can be in comparison to formula in the neonatal intensive care unit on the developmental outcome of extremely low birth weight infants of 18 months of age. The breast milk had more benefits over the formula. With there being so many benefits of breastfeeding for mother and baby, why would the public want to make women feel uncomfortable for making the best decision for themselves and their babies? As previously mentioned, breastfeeding mothers' main fear was to nurse in public. That fear could make them stop breastfeeding or say, I'm not even going to try. If people in general would just start to promote, protect, and support breastfeeding, maybe more than 49% of mothers would still be nursing their babies at 6 months of age. When mothers are nursing in public, give her a supportive smile. Don't sneer at her and give her a dirty look. Understand that it's very challenging to nurse a baby in public for fear of what others are thinking. Know that her only concern should be feeding her baby, but instead she has to worry about what people are thinking. Breastfeeding is a very controversial issue, especially when breastfeeding in public. More people need to come together to support the strong women who are making the choice to breastfeed both privately and publicly. Doing this would lead to more people making the decision to breastfeed. It would also help those nursing feel more comfortable to do so in public. Thank you.